Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something totally fascinating. It's a journey to understand one of the most powerful and transformative frameworks out there, postcolonialism. Whether you're studying literature or just trying to make sense of the underlying currents of our globalized world, this lens fundamentally changes how we look at history and society. It's a real eye-opener, so let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this with a massive, thought-provoking question. What actually happens to a culture's identity after the colonizers finally pack up and leave? Things don't just magically snap back to the way they were centuries ago. The aftermath of historical colonial rule leaves these huge, complicated echoes that literally reshape societies forever. Let's examine that aftermath.
So Section 1, Defining Postcolonialism, the Lens of the 1970s. This movement really started gaining serious academic momentum in the 1970s, and it continues right up to the present day.
Postcolonialism is a literary and theoretical movement that examines the cultural, political, economic, and psychological consequences of colonial rule. And I really want to emphasize that word, consequences. We aren't just talking about a specific time period or a timeline of battles. We're looking at a comprehensive, multi-layered reckoning with the profound human cost of empires.
Getting down to the nitty-gritty, this theory investigates a few critical areas. First, how colonial powers actually represented colonized peoples. Think about who was holding the pen when history was being written, right? Second, it asks how those representations completely shaped the identities of the people living under that rule. And finally, it examines the lasting impacts on cultures and social structures. We're talking about the deep psychological and social scars left behind by how colonizers viewed and treated the colonized.
Moving right along to Section 2, Challenging Eurocentric Assumptions and Shifting the Perspective. This is really the core conflict of the whole movement, showing how postcolonialism acts as a vital corrective measure to historical erasure.
And this brilliantly illustrates the central clash. On one side, for generations, you have these deeply entrenched, biased Eurocentric assumptions that totally dominated the narrative. But on the flip side, you have the urgent mission of postcolonial critics to actively seek out and recover the true voices and experiences of formerly colonized societies. It's basically about taking the microphone back.
All right, Section 3, Core Themes and Characteristics. Let's open up the Postcolonial Toolkit and look at the specific concepts that form the analytical foundation, especially if you're an English literature student reading through this lens.
Notice how these essential themes kind of trigger a chain reaction. It all starts with the overarching forces of power and race, which so often force migration and displacement. Now, that intense friction of colonial rule naturally sparks resistance, right? And not just physical resistance, but resistance in language itself, as colonized peoples subvert and reclaim the colonizer's tongue. This epic collision of worlds forces what we call cultural hybridicity, leading right back to an incredibly complex process of identity formation. It's all connected.
Section 4, Key Theorists and Works, the Architects. Let's move to and see how this builds by introducing the intellectual heavyweights who constructed this whole framework.
These concepts were championed by foundational theorists like Edward Said, Homi K. Baha, and Gayatri Chakravorty Spivak. They're the ones who established the academic vocabulary we use today, and we see their theories explored in absolutely groundbreaking texts. Essential works like Said's critical masterpiece Orientalism, and iconic pillars of the movement's literature like Things Fall Apart. These works literally bring those abstract themes of hybridity and power to life right on the page. Which brings us to Section 5, the Contemporary Legacy, Echoes of Empire. Let's bring this academic theory out of the past and into your present day, because understanding these concepts is absolutely vital right now.
So, the crucial point is that colonial legacies continue to influence contemporary societies. We are definitely not talking about dead history here. The cultural, economic, and political dynamics of colonialism, those skewed representations, hybrid identities, and global migrations, they are active, breathing forces that are shaping our modern world every single day. Which leaves us with a really powerful, lingering question. Where do we still see these colonial legacies shaping our world today? As you consume media, read new books, or just watch global events unfold, keep this post-colonial toolkit in your back pocket. The echoes of empire are still ringing loud and clear, and honestly, once you start looking through this lens, you'll see them everywhere. Thanks for joining us on this explainer, and keep asking the big questions.